computers, anything that makes noise. We missing somebody? Purnell. Oh, okay. All right, let's call the meeting to order. We have a pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank all of you for being here. Our crowd grows every week. We appreciate the opportunity to have all of you join with us. And I'm not sure if we're being streamed live yet, but the public will be able to see this, if not immediately, but in the next day or so. We have, as our tradition, a moment of silence, and I would like to dedicate our moment of silence this evening for the people of Libya. We do have an employee, Mr. Mohammed Adib, who has family in Libya and is very, very concerned. And we'll just take a moment of silence to reflect on that situation. All right, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Calling the roll, Mr. Miller.
Present.
Mr. Germana. Here. Mr. Gallagher. Here. Mr. Schran. Here. Ms. Conwell. Here. Mr. Jones.
Here.
Ms. Conley. Here. Mr. Rogers.
Here.
Ms. Simon.
Here.
Mr. Greenspan.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you. Are there any, has anyone signed in for public comment on matters related to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair. Linda Meyer has signed in to discuss the second reading of the ethics ordinance.
All right, come forward, Ms. Meyer. She's well known to us.
Additionally, I have given each of you a handout that Ms. Myers has provided for you.
And Ms. Myers, you have 2 minutes.
Your Honor, Madam President, and members of council, I'm Linda Meyer, Chair of the Transitions Code of Ethics Workgroup, and I'm here to speak about item 14A on the agenda. Our members, workgroup members, have reviewed the committee draft ethics ordinance, which has just been reported to the full council and will have its second reading this evening. In our opinion, the ordinance has an important number of admirable features, but a significant number of general weaknesses and a list of specific flaws, which we enumerate in the handout that some have received already. Taken as a whole, as it's currently written, we conclude that the ethics ordinance is still in need of more thorough editing, and is therefore not yet ready for passage on March 22nd. I do understand that it's being postponed by 2 weeks anyway. At the very least, it does need these extra 2 weeks, during which it needs to undergo legal scrutiny by specialists familiar with ethics law and enforcement protocols. If those extra 2 weeks do not solve many of the problems detailed in the handout, then we would recommend that the council re-adopt the 90-day stopgap measure that currently is in force. There are just too many loose ends, big ones but little ones, that we think will cripple the application of the new rules and diminish the chances that a new ethical climate in the county will take hold. Workgroup members believe that the shortcomings of this ordinance are eminently fixable. We commend Mr. Greenspan, the members of the Rules Committee, and those professionals who helped them. They've been most accessible and open to our input. Indeed, that committee has came really a long way in such a short time, with so many other things on your plate. So We hope all of you will now give yourselves the extra time, be it 2 more weeks or 90 more days, to make sure that the ordinance can stand the test of interpretation, that it unambiguously does what it purports to do, and that it indeed undergirds the new ethical culture that we all want to see in the county.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Are there any other public comments?
No, Madam Chair, no one
Right.
else has signed in to speak.
All right. Is this the point where we need to amend the agenda, or do we do that after the approval of the minutes? Okay. All right. There was, in the work session, there was a request by the clerk that we amend the agenda. Is it 14A, I believe? 17? Okay, is there a motion? 17A, we neglected to add Ms. Simon as a sponsor on that, and we wanted to amend the agenda to reflect that.
Then I move that we add Ms. Simon and acknowledge her as the primary sponsor for this legislation.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Rogers, seconded by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, you call the roll.
Approving the amendment to the agenda, Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Brady, Mr. Germana,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher, Mr. Schron, Ms. Conwell,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Conley, Mr. Rogers,
Yes.
Ms. Simon,
Yes.
and Mr. Greenspan. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, the agenda is so amended. We have circulated to all of the members the minutes of the March 1st meeting, and I hope that everyone had an opportunity to read that. This is the materials that we were given to read tonight. I've gotten through most of them. So is there an opportunity to, is there a motion to approve the minutes as circulated?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Gallagher, second by Ms. Simon. Any discussion? All right, call the roll.
Approving the minutes, Mr. Miller. Yes. Mr. Brady,
Yes.
Mr. Germana,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Schron. Yes. Ms. Conwell. Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Conley.
Yes.
Rogers. Ms. Simon.
Yes.
And Mr. Greenspan. Yes. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, the minutes are so approved. Before we go any farther, I just wanted to mention that our clerk, Mr. Matzer, and Mr. Phillips has really gone above and beyond the call of duty. She was here till 9 o'clock last night getting this agenda out. And I think Mr. Phillips went out and took up his kids and came back. He was here till about 9 o'clock. So I really want to commend her that we've got to get our systems a little bit more organized so she doesn't have to go through this. But thank you very much.
You're welcome. I thank you, and I'd like to add Law Director Morales in the group of that. So
Thank you, you're right, because I know I got some stuff from Mr. Morales over the weekend, and thank you. Very hard-working group. All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Good evening, Madam President, members of council. I just have a few items to update you on. One, in reference also in particular to a comment that was made by Councilman Miller about Project Safe Surrender. We were disappointed by the cut that was announced out of Washington, but to put it in context, that is a cut of the program that's done at the federal level, because they have basically they had a coordinator and a little bit of support staff that took the best practice that we established here in Cuyahoga County and extended it in communities across the United States. And while I don't think that cut was wise, because the savings that they're going to gain from cutting that program are going to be far outweighed by the savings they're not going to realize, not to mention the human cost involved. It isn't going to affect, I don't believe, from what we've been able to determine, it's not going to affect us here in Cuyahoga County. First of all, because we have been in some discussions with the Attorney General's office, and they have agreed to continue cooperating with it. We have made a contribution, the county has made a contribution of approximately $75,000 in support of the program. By the way, the program only happens every 5 years, so it happened in 2005 and it happened again in 2010. And it's not a yearly event. Sometimes people may think it is because there's been a lot of publicity about it, but it actually wasn't due to happen again until 2015. And it's been fabulously successful. There have been over 7,000 fugitives ended up surrendering. But we believe we're going to be able to continue it. And in terms of the support we get from the Attorney General and from local ministers, and also the support that our own Sheriff's Office provides, we think we're going to be able to continue to do it. I do think it's appropriate for this body to continue to advocate for full funding out of Washington, only because they do provide some coordinating services out of there that we don't want to do without. But I think we can safely say that we're going to be able to continue it with or without them, although we would like their participation. Secondly, you may have, I hope we communicated to you that we opened our open government page on our website, and I would just extend the invitation to you to critique it, and also if there are data sets that you would suggest make sense or upgrades. It was kind of a down payment on how we're trying to be open about the information that we provide. I do want to, though, compliment our web folks that are in-house, because they did look at some best practices across the country in different county and state and city websites about how they provide information. And there are going to be upgrades to it that are coming. But if you have any suggestions, or again, particular data sets that you think that your constituents would be interested in, we'd be happy to accommodate you. There was an announcement, I guess it was yesterday, time flies, but there was an announcement about American Greetings down in, that Governor Kasich made down in Brooklyn, and I just wanted to give you a quick update in that. We had been in communication with both the governor's office and also some state legislators about the bill that was passed, and I just wanted to communicate to you in terms of what our own preferences were twofold. Obviously, we wanted American Greetings to stay. We wanted them to stay in Cuyahoga County, but we did want them to stay in Brooklyn in particular. And that is what we have expressed to both the company representatives and the governor's office. And that while we certainly don't oppose the tax incentives and credits that they are going to be able to avail themselves of, it was our opinion that, and it still is my opinion, that we didn't want to give an incentive for a company based in one Cuyahoga County suburb to just move to another Cuyahoga County suburb unless there was some kind of a reciprocal tax advantage to the community that loses the business. So right now they've identified 5 sites. They're all in Cuyahoga County. We continue to say that we hope that they stay in Brooklyn. It would be devastating, I think, to that community if they lost American Greetings. If they leave, we have already been talking to state legislators about giving us some tools in the state tax code so that our development department could go into that site if it was emptied of American Greetings and have development alternatives for that site. It's going to take, even if they do make the decision to leave Brooklyn, it's going to take a while. It's not going to be like a sports franchise, picking up and leaving overnight. Not that we have any information that's happening. I grew up in Indianapolis, and I remember the Colts were there one day and left Baltimore, so that was one of my childhood memories. But anyway, American Greetings migration, if it happens, will take some time, and that will give our development department, hopefully with some state assistance, the opportunity to fill up that site and actually increase our tax base, as opposed to just moving monopoly pieces on the board, so to speak. Speaking of economic development, I anticipate that we'll be making an announcement fairly shortly about my nominee for economic development director, so you can look forward to that. Quickly, a couple other things real quickly. One is the census data is about to come out. I want you to know that the Planning Commission is, as soon as that information is going to be released, they're going to start drilling down into all of that information and providing it both to the public but also to our staff for use. And we'll also break that down by district, and we'll get that to you as quickly as possible so you can figure out what the population trends are for the greater Cleveland area, but also for your own particular districts and how that might affect planning, whether it be economic development or social services or what have you. So as soon as that information comes out, and the date that the census, Nate, the date the census is supposed to come out, when is it? Okay, so take that with a grain of salt, but that's when we believe we're going to get the first real hard data. The state budget, as you know, we're going to be getting that information on March the 15th. We've already had various departments, and we can share that information with you in greater detail if you're interested. We've had departments start trying to identify kind of high, medium, and low scenarios, for instance, in the area of human services and some other areas. And so we'd be happy to share that with you, although it's rapidly going to become academic because at least the initial numbers are going to be presented. Doesn't mean that's where they're going to end up. I just want you to be assured that we have been in pretty extensive communication with our legislative delegation, and we're going to try to be the best advocate we possibly can that we end up not being harmed unduly. But we know there are going to be cuts. Speaking of that, even before March 15th, I anticipate that you're going to hear that there are going to be other personnel cuts that we make at the county. And that's being done not just for purposes of economy and efficiency, which is a worthy goal in and of itself, but also because we're trying to prepare for what we know is going to be bad news out of Columbus. So we're going to be doing them piecemeal. We're doing them one at a time, or one department at a time. And we are somewhat constrained by the uncertainty that hangs over some employees' status, which is why I also want to thank you for your rapid pace in terms of reviewing our nominees for the Human Resources Commission. That's going to be very important that they help define everybody's categories and classifications so that we can make sure that we're following whatever due process that we're mandated to when it comes to employees. That's my report. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 8, we have a number of appointments that will be made under suspension of the rules.
Madam President.
Yes, Mr. Miller.
Madam President, I move that Rule number 13A requiring reference to committee and Rule number 9D requiring that ordinances and resolutions be read at 3 different regular council meetings, and Rule 7E requiring that motions of council be read at 2 different council meetings be suspended, and that motions number 2011-0011 and 2011-0012 and 2011-0013 and 2011-0014 and 2011-0015 be considered for final passage at tonight's meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, moved by Mr. Miller, second by Mr. Germana to suspend the rules. Madam Clerk.
Suspending the rules, Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Brady? Yes. Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers? Yes. Ms. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Greenspan?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, we can move then on to 2011-001, Mr. Rick Werner. Madam Clerk.
Motion number 2011-0011, a motion confirming the county executive's appointment of Richard Werner upon his taking the oath of office as the Director of Health and Human Services of Cuyahoga County.
Moved by Mr. Brady.
Yes, sorry, I was distracted. Council President, I've had the pleasure of working with Mr. Werner for the last several weeks, and very impressed with his attentiveness to answering our questions and working with us to devise a plan for the committee and a way to really, get together with the administration on our goals for health and human services, and I highly recommend his approval.
Madam President.
All right, seconded by Mr. Schrein. We will note for the record that we had confirmation hearings one day last week. I forget these things happen so quick, I forget the days. We did have confirmation hearings, and Mr. Werner acquitted himself admirably. Is there any discussion?
Madam President.
Yes.
Madam President, I also strongly support this nomination. Mr. Warner has a long and very successful round of experience in managing human service programs and a great general knowledge of county government, and I'm sure that he'll do an excellent job. Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Approving the motion, Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Brady, Mr. Germana,
Yes.
Gallagher, Mr. Schron,
Yes.
Ms. Conwell, Mr. Jones, Ms. Conley,
Yes.
Mr. Rogers,
Yes.
Ms. Simon, and Mr. Greenspan. Yes. Motion carries unanimously.
Congratulations, Mr. Werner. You want to come forward? What's he want? Um, 0002, Ms. Tiwan. Madam Clerk, you read the record, read the motion, please.
Yes, motion 2011-0012, a motion confirming the county executive's appointment of Bonita Tiwan, Director of Public Works, to serve on the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District Board of Trustees.
Do we need to take a roll call vote on each one of these? Can we just go through them and then take a roll call vote at the end? Because these are actually not really we didn't have confirmation hearings on it. Mr. Miller, do we have a problem with that?
I think a motion could be made to do more than one if we wanted to.
Yeah, Madam President, I'm sorry. I have to recuse myself on C, motion 2011-0013.
Okay, then let's do them individually. All right. That solves that question. Going to call the roll then on 0012.
Madam Chair, I need a motion and a second.
Oh, we need a motion. Sorry.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Who's that?
Mr. Miller, seconded by Mr. Germana. All those in favor? Well, it's going to call the roll. Get us off pace here.
Approving the motion, Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Brady. Yes. Mr. Germana. Yes. Mr. Gallagher.
Yes.
Mr. Schron.
Yes.
Ms. Conwell. Yes. Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Conley. Yes. Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
Ms. Simon.
Yes.
Mr. Greenspan.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, congratulations. Ms. Tiwan, is she still here? All right, 0013. We, for those of you who were not here earlier, we had an opportunity to hear from Mr. Wolf, Ms. Simmons, and Ms. Palmer. They gave us an explanation. It was a pleasure to meet all of them. And so their motion is now on the agenda for the approval.
Motion number 2011-0013, a motion confirming the county executive's appointment of individuals to serve on the Cuyahoga County Human Resources Commission. Robert Wolf for the period of March 8, 2011 through March 7, 2017. Angela Simmons for the period March 8, 2011 through March 7, 2015. And Kathleen Palmer for the period March 8, 2011 through March 7, 2013.
Moved it. Second.
Moved by Mr. Schron, seconded by Mr. Gallagher. Any discussion? All right, call the roll.
Approving the motion, Mr. Miller. Yes. Mr. Brady. Yes. Mr. Germana. Yes. Mr. Gallagher? Yes. Mr. Schron? Yes. Ms. Conwell?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Conley? Yes. Mr. Rogers? Yes. Ms. Simon? Yes. And Mr. Greenspan is recusing. Thank you. Motion carries 10 to 0. Mr.
Okay.
Greenspan recusing.
We look forward to working with the Human Resource Commission. All right, number 0014. Is Ms. Drayton here by chance? Okay.
Motion number 2011-0014, motion confirming the county executive's appointment of Carol Dayton to serve on the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging Board of Trustees.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Greenspan, second by Ms. Simon. Any discussion? I call the roll.
Approving the motion, Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Brady? Yes. Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Gallagher? Yes. Mr. Schron? Yes. Ms. Conwell?
Yes.
Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers? Yes. Ms. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Greenspan?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, congratulations to Ms. Drayton, and we'll be sending a letter out to these folks. And Ms. Karen Butler, is she here? All right. Madam Clerk.
Motion number 2011-0015, a motion confirming the county executive's appointment of Karen Butler to serve on the Cuyahoga Regional HIV Health Services Planning Council.
Move to adopt. Second.
Moved by Mr. Schron, second by Mr. Gallagher. Any discussion? All right, call the roll.
Approving the motion, Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Schron?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers? Yes. Ms. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Greenspan?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, we congratulate these two fine citizens and look forward to their service. Consideration of motion of council for first reading and referral to committee. Item number 0016, Madam Clerk.
Motion number 2011-0016, a motion confirming the county executive's appointment of individuals to serve on the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority Board of Trustees. The Honorable Gary Norton for the unexpired term ending March 31st, 2012, and Karen Gabriel Moss for the unexpired term ending March 31st, 2013.
All right, we will refer this matter to the Human Resource Committee under the able hands of Ms. Conwell. Item number 10, committee report and consideration of motion for council for second reading. Madam Clerk.
Motion number 2011-0007, a motion adopting permanent rules of Cuyahoga County Council.
Mr. Miller has been working quite diligently on this. Do you have comments, Mr. Miller?
Madam President, thank you very much. I would also like to thank the chairperson, Councilman Greenspan, and all the members of the committee. This motion would provide a permanent set of rules which would supersede the interim rules that we passed on January 3rd. And about 80% or so of the interim rules continue as the permanent rules, but there are a few changes where we updated and improve things, and we corrected one problem where there could be a conflict with charter requirements, and the new rules will have motions of council and proclamations be approved in the same way that other resolutions are approved. And so I would ask members of council to look through the rules draft, and if there's any concerns, the hope is that we could pass this on March 22nd on third reading at our next regular meeting.
All right, thank you. So this is referred to the Rules Committee?
Well, no, Madam President, if I may,
Okay.
this actually is the first piece of legislation, I believe, that's come out of committee for second reading. So I just wanted to just review the process from here as it relates to first, second, and third readings, just so we're all on the same page. During a first reading, when an item is sent to committee, from the first reading to the second reading is when it will reside in committee, and the committee will pass it out of committee with the expectation of it being adopted. Between the second and third readings, which in this case will be March 22nd, the expectation is that if there are any amendments that the council members wish to make, please submit them in writing for consideration on the 22nd, and we'll vote those amendments up or down as it relates to the ordinance itself. So I hope that explains the process, at least from here, as to how we can make amendments to any motion or any ordinance or resolution between the second and third readings.
All right, thank you, Mr. Greenspan.
Madam President? Thank you very much. I just want to commend both councilmen for their work and diligent work for the rules as well as ethics. I just wanted to state, if however, as we sit there at the council meeting on March 22nd, before we have a chance to submit written comments or written amendments, we can waive the requirement for the written amendment, can we not, in case something comes up on the floor?
Madam President?
Yes, Mr. Miller.
Yes, and actually, we had some amendments to the ethics ordinance in the Rules and Ethics Committee, in which we had some amendments like that, and we waived the rule. It's a good thing if people know their amendments and can present them to the committee in writing, so that we know exactly what the changes are that are being proposed. But especially if you're adding a couple words or deleting a couple words and it comes in at the last minute, that rule can be suspended, and we can consider them on the floor.
All right.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just a question as to procedure. Since this is the first time, so in this particular case, this resolution, or this, let's see,
Motion.
it is not going back to committee, and it'll be on third reading.
Right.
Correct.
But if there was more work to be done, it would be referred back to committee after second reading.
Okay.
Thank you.
Correct.
Madam President?
Yes.
A motion would always be in order on second reading. If it's determined that something needs more work, a motion could be made to refer it back to committee, and more work could be done. Also, the rules state that the president and the clerk prepare the agenda, so the normal assumption would be that something that's up for second reading this time, that at the next meeting it would be up for third reading. But if there were some problem that need to be worked out, it could be held to the following meeting if need be. So any of these options are open.
All right, so at this point, it'll be on the agenda for the 22nd.
Right. And Madam
Yeah.
President,
Yes.
just a further point, if we get to a third reading and it seems as if we're not ready, we can always refer it, the chair, it can always be referred back to committee.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Correct.
All right. All right, item number 11, consideration of a resolution of council for first reading and referral to committee.
Okay. For the prior motion for the rules, should the record reflect that no action was taken on this item?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to resolution number 2011-0085, a resolution objecting to Senate Bill 5, which would sharply curtail collective bargaining rights of Ohio public employees.
Mr. Schrein?
Madam President, I see that it's being recommended to be referred to committee, but it appears as though if we are judging on every action, whether it's going to come at the Ohio level or at the federal level or at the city level, by taking these into committee, I think we're doing somebody else's work, in all honesty, that it's a precedent that we need to be very careful about as to every time a piece of legislation comes up by another body, that we're actually taking some consideration, referring it to that body, and then making our own decisions and trying to amend and change it. And I notice we have that on the agenda for this evening again.
Madam President?
Yes.
May I please, I'd like to add on to Councilmember Schron's statement. If as council, we have council members individually have a specific interest in legislation, either at the state or federal level or in another municipality, we have our own letterhead. We can write our own letters instead of having a formal resolution come out of council. We have to be cognizant of the fact that we are the largest county in the state, and if we take the opportunity to submit a resolution out of here on every issue or a significant number of issues, the validity or the weight behind our size and stature may very well be diminished. So my recommendation would be for strong consideration not to bring these items before council, but to write individual letters as a council member individually or collectively, but not as a body.
Well, at this point, we've had a resolution introduced. We have signatories on it, and the chair will refer it to the Human Resource Committee. All right, item number 12, consideration of an ordinance for rules for first reading and adoption under suspension. Yes, Mr. Brady.
I move that Rule 13A requiring reference to committee and Rule 9D requiring that ordinances and resolutions be read at 3 different regular council meetings be suspended, and ordinance 2011-00117 be considered for final passage at tonight's meeting.
Second.
All right, it's moved and seconded to suspension of the rules. Is there any discussion? And call the roll.
Suspending the rules, Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Germana.
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes.
Mr. Schron.
Yes.
Ms. Conwell. Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Conley. Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
Ms. Simon. Mr. Greenspan.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Joe, sir, do you need some help? Yeah, do you need some help? Okay, all right. Okay, I'm just going to get you some help if you need it. That's fine. Okay. All right. Okay, thank you, sir. All right. The motion has been read. Is there a motion to, is there a motion on it?
The motion to suspend the rules was
Okay.
carried
All right,
unanimously.
so let's call the roll on the motion to suspend the rules.
We did that, so we're
Okay.
into reading the item into the record.
Okay, yes.
Okay, ordinance number 2011-0017, an ordinance establishing a per diem compensation rate for members of the Human Resources Commission as required by Section 9.01 of the Charter of Cuyahoga County and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
I moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mr. Schron. Is there any discussion? I'll just add that this provision, this ordinance provides for a per diem of $200 per day for members of the Human Resource Commission, with the chairperson getting $225 per day. And this ordinance is adopted with the idea that in 90 days, the commission and the executive will come back to us with a budget, with a structure, and tell us what kind of staff, and more or less fill in the details of how the operation is going to act. But this, how it's going to perform. But this way, the commission can get started, and we can pay these folks. Okay. All right. Any discussion? All right. And call the roll.
Approving the ordinance, Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Germana.
Yes.
Gallagher.
Yes.
Mr. Schron. Ms. Conwell. Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Conley.
Yes.
Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
Ms. Simon.
Yes.
And Mr. Greenspan.
Yes.
The ordinance is adopted or enacted.
All right.
11-0.
All right, so we can get started on Human Resource Commission. All right, item number 13, committee report and consideration of a resolution of council for second reading under rules of suspension.
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Miller.
I move that Rule number 9D, requiring that ordinances and resolutions be read at 3 different regular council meetings, be suspended, and that resolution number 2011-0002 be considered for passage at tonight's meeting.
It's moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mr. Rogers. And call the roll.
Suspending the rules, Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Brady. Yes. Mr. Germana.
Yes.
Gallagher. Yes. Mr. Schron.
No.
Ms. Conwell.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Conley. Yes. Mr. Rogers. Yes. Ms. Simon.
Yes.
Mr. Greenspan.
No.
Motion carries 9-2.
All right, motion to suspend the rule carries, and you'll read the resolution, please.
Resolution number 2011-0002, a resolution opposing House Bill 3 of the 129th Ohio General Assembly that would amend the Ohio Revised Code to repeal the estate tax for the estates of individuals dying on or after January 1st, 2011, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Germana.
this resolution needs to be amended. From the time that the resolution was submitted to the time, at this point in time, the dates in it are incorrect. In the resolution title itself and in a couple places in the body, it's referring to individuals dying on or after 1/1/2011, and that has been voted out of committee with the amendment of being 1/1/2013. So I move that the dates be updated to 1/1/2013.
Okay, so we need a second. All right, moved by Mr. Germana, seconded by Ms. Simon on the amended motion. All right, is there any discussion?
Madam President.
Mr. Miller and then Mr. Germana.
Madam President, I would what's being proposed here is a motion to amend the legislation, and this can be done, but we should suspend the rules requiring that amendments be submitted in writing. So I would ask if the maker of the motion could either he could withdraw it and first move to allow a motion to be made without it being in writing, or else to amend his motion, adding that the rules are suspended to allow the acceptance of an amendment that's not in writing. That would probably be sufficient.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to correct my motion to say that we'd like to suspend the rules so that we could correct the dates in this resolution because it's changed from the time that it was submitted.
And we have the consent for second?
Second.
All right, now, do we need to call the roll again on the suspension? Are we okay? Okay. All right, now, so now, is there discussion on item 0002? Mr. Germana?
Madam Chair, we discussed this.
Madam President?
Yes.
We should call the roll on the motion which suspends the rules and also it amends the motion, amends the legislation that's before us. And if that occurs, then the legislation before us as amended would be the motion before us.
All right, well, let's call the roll again.
Okay. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Schron?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell?
Yes.
Mr. Jones? Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Yes.
Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Greenspan?
Chair.
Yes, Mr. Germana.
I just wanted to explain that we did have discussion and testimony at the Intergovernmental Relations and Collaboration Committee concerning this resolution. And, you know, basically there's a couple rules of thought on this. And one of the things that we had discussed is we're just objecting to it. Mr. Schron had thought that it might be in best interest to make a recommendation on how it should be changed. So there is an amendment that I see in writing. Mr. Schron, did you want to present that?
Yeah, just point of order. Are we to this point where the motion is even on the floor? I didn't,
Yeah, the motion,
I
yes.
thought all we did was amend the motion. I didn't think it ever made it to the floor in its amended condition, but if we are,
The motion is on the floor in its amended condition, and we're here for discussions, and Mr. Jimana
I didn't think so.
discussing it.
Okay. Oh, yes, then I do have a,
Jack,
at the
if
appropriate
I-
time, sure.
I just want to let everybody know where this stands, okay, because it certainly is not in its finals form. This has been passed by the committee in the House, but it has not gone to a vote of the full House. And once that would happen, then it would have to go to the Senate. So we're early on in this discussion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Madam President. I believe, not to correct Mr. Jimana, but I believe this is still in Ways and Means. I don't believe it's come out of committee in Columbus.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Jimana.
My understanding that it was passed out of committee, but it's under the what is it, the black line? It's under the black line, meaning it has not been voted at the House. That's my understanding.
Stand corrected then.
Yes, Mr. Schrein.
Yes, Madam President. I think that the discussion was long, and so I'll put my motion on the floor as far as an amendment. I move to amend the language of resolutions R 2011-0002 to say that the Cuyahoga County Council requests that the proposed HB 3 be amended to provide for additional phase-in time beyond the current transition date of January 1, 2013, in order to provide for a longer phase-in for cities, villages, townships throughout the state of Ohio.
Is that?
I'll
I'll second that.
I'm going to have a second motion.
It's been moved by Mr. Schrein and seconded by Mr. Greenspan to amend the motion. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
Madam President?
Yes.
I think it's a worthy amendment for consideration, but the concern I have is that down in Columbus, that the legislators of both political parties have been very eager to reduce or eliminate various forms of taxes, but never want to put anything in its place. And elimination of the estate tax would deprive municipal governments of a very significant source of revenue, regardless of whether it's done now or later. And I think there actually are very good arguments for getting rid of the estate tax, particularly that it's a form of double taxation. However, I think that to say that we should get rid of it and just not put anything in its place, which is what they've been doing for years and years, which is part of the reason why we're in the mess we're in, I wouldn't be able to support the amendment unless something were said about that the revenue should be replaced. Thank you.
Mr. Brady?
Madam Chairperson, I also will be opposing the amendment, but what I would like to say is that I think there is merit as we move forward in what some of our colleagues have been discussing about how this council proceeds with, I fear it becoming a debating society. As someone who spent 10 years in the legislature, I know I have strong feelings about these issues as much as anybody else on this council. And I know that anyone in this council has the right, and I would never want to try to imply that someone does not have the right to put forward a resolution. But I fear endless debates about legislation, as some of my colleagues have discussed, and I think it's something that we should heed, and that we should take into consideration. We have so much work to do in terms of the business of the county. So much to do. We're so overwhelmed by trying to build this new county government that, in spite of how strong our feelings are, and mine are very strong about these issues, that we should think about concentrating our attention on the business of the county. And I know that these issues do impact on the county. I'm not saying they do not, and I'm not trying to invalidate anybody's opinion in fact, I almost surely agree with these resolutions. But I do think that there is merit in what our colleagues are saying about having discussions, and this one is a perfect example because we get to the point where we're discussing where it's in committee, and whether it's not in committee, and whether it's on the floor, whether it's not on the floor, and this could go on endlessly.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Gallagher.
I second Mr. Brady's thoughts.
Mr. Schrein.
That I agree with Mr. Brady as far as the concept on the reason why this should not be coming before us in the first place, and suggest perhaps even consider referring it back to committee because it's not ripe. And so therefore, we're going to be getting into a debating society. It hasn't even come out onto the floor of the House at this point in time, and we're going to continually doing this. So I agree with the concept of avoiding this and stay with the business of the council at hand, and take on the big challenges that we as a county have responsibilities to do. The purpose for this is that it does, at least now turning to the amendment itself, currently when this came up initially only 2 weeks ago, this was going to terminate and start effective immediately in 2011. In just 2 weeks, it's now gone to 2013. The purpose for this amendment is to suggest that if it extends beyond that, 2014, 15, 16, that would allow the legislative body to actually look at if there should be a replacement be brought in place. It's not our job, I don't believe, to recommend exactly how the legislation should be written. And that's the purpose for why the amendment is written, to suggest a longer period of time than just 2013.
All right, if there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll on the amendment?
Mr. Miller?
No.
Mr. Brady? No. Mr. Germana? No. Mr. Gallagher? Yes. Mr. Schran?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell?
No.
Mr. Jones?
No.
Ms. Conley?
No.
Mr. Rogers?
No.
Ms. Simon?
No.
Mr. Greenspan?
No. I'm sorry, yes. Yes. Got carried away.
All right, so now we need to call the roll on the amendment is defeated, and we'll call the roll on the original motion.
Madam President, I wish to submit a second amendment.
All right.
The amendment is moved to amend the language of Resolution 2011-0002 to say that to amend that during the period of transition, the amount of the exemption currently in place be changed to reflect an exemption more in line with that in place of the 16 states that have an estate tax requirements.
I'll second that motion.
All right, so it's moved by Mr. Schran and seconded by Mr. Greenspan to amend the original motion. Is there discussion on the amendment?
President? Yes. Only a point of order about these amendments being orally made on the floor. I thought the rules required if there was going to be an amendment to our resolution that that be in writing.
They're actually handed out in writing.
This is both of your different ones? Okay.
They're handed out in writing.
Right, and it was made notice at the committee that these would be coming forward.
Thank you. Good job. Okay.
The comment, Madam President, when you look at estate tax in general, talking about the concept, there are only 17 states in the entire union that have this. Ohio its exemption rate is less than half of the next highest bracket. Ours is $338,000. The rest of that includes that one of almost every 10 people in this room is going to be subject to a state tax in the state of Ohio. As a shocker for most people, they don't realize how low that is in regards to what it takes to be incorporated by the time you incorporate a home or anything of that nature. When you look at other states, they are at $1 million, $3.5 million, $5 million, similar to what the federal state tax regulation has gone to. And as a result, again, when you look back at when this was put in place back in the 60s, this is reflective of that. And so if we're going to make recommendations, I think we should be also making recommendations that have some input to the state.
Madam President.
Mr. Jaman and Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the intergovernmental committee, we did have a pass out that I think we made available to all council members concerning what the different tax rates are. And philosophically, I'm against the estate tax, period. I've said this, at the committee meeting, people that have accumulated wealth have paid tax all the way, and if they were frugal and industrious, now when they die, they get taxed. But this is not the time to be eliminating it. Many cities are depending on this, so that's where we have the objection. I do agree however, with Mr. Schron's amendment as to increasing the amount of the deduction, meaning we won't pay the estate tax until after it's a little bit higher threshold. In comparison to the 17 other states, it's 1/3 lower than the next highest state. So where we're 338, the next lowest is $1 million, and some of the states are $2 million, $5 million, so on. So I agree with the amendment.
Madam President.
I think Mr. Rogers and then Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Madam President. When we discussed this in committee, and one of the main reasons why this was even brought to committee and brought for discussion on whether or not we would render any type of opinions or resolutions in favor or in opposition to House Bill 3 is because of the impact that this bill would have on the municipalities throughout Cuyahoga County. We had testimony here from Ms. Shaken from Shaker Heights, who indicated how devastating the city of Shaker Heights would be should House Bill 3 be passed as it's currently in place. And the purpose for us sending this resolution at this point in time, even though it hasn't been passed out of the House and it has just gone through committee, is that we can issue some form of opinion on where we feel as a council on how this will impact Cuyahoga County. And so I think it's totally appropriate that we would send a message now to the legislature as it's being debated so they can have some opinion from municipalities in Cuyahoga County and Cuyahoga County as a whole on how we feel that this would impact. So I have to oppose the amendment that's on the table now.
Mr. Miller.
I'll pass.
All right, so we will call any discussion? All right, call the roll on the amendment. I'm sorry, Mr. Schrein.
I just need to comment on the comments regards to Mr. Rogers. The purpose is, if you indicated, is that we would put forth at least a point of view. That is the purpose of the amendment, to actually extend another point of view that is not being exercised by just the blank resolution going forward, without giving some guidance in other areas that we believe are relevant, because this not only affects the fact that there's 33 states that do not have this. It goes directly to economic development. It is a direct relationship between those who are family farmers, small business owners, people who have the challenge of being able to pass their family farm or their business from one generation to the next. And that is point of view by extending the exemption recommendation that we actually are providing additional guidance to them.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Simon.
And my position is I do not support the amendment, and I do support the resolution as it sits and came before us through the committee. I want to state that if this estate tax is eliminated, then it's going to devastate the municipalities, that we're going to bear witness to that, and the tax is going to come from someplace else. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, you can eliminate unions, you can eliminate collective bargaining, and all those things. At the end of the day, the money has to come from someplace to fix our roads and to provide essential services for the safety and welfare of our communities. So either you're going to get it from the estate tax, or it's going to come out of people who are working, or people who are barely able to pay their bills. So that's a different perspective, as long as we become a debating society tonight. And I appreciate Councilman Brady's comments. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Germana.
I appreciate Councilwoman Simon's point of view and so on. I think the point being here is that there's really a small amount of people that pay this estate tax. And in particular, I think the low limit of $338,000 affects small business. I mean, any small business that has got some real estate or equipment, to get over that $338,000, it's bad for small business. It certainly could be increased and wouldn't affect the overall, because it's the real high estates that are paying the substantial amount of this tax.
Mr. Greenspan.
And I wasn't going to comment, but since I'm a member of the Cuyahoga County Council Debating Society, I thought I'd bring it up. This actually is a philosophical debate of whether you believe in taxing double taxation, as the statement was made earlier. If both of these amendments were to have been recommended to the legislature, and as I stated earlier, I'm completely opposed that we're even discussing this, but since it's on the schedule and on the agenda, I will. I understand, and I sat through 4 hours of testimony in Columbus and Ways and Means listening to testimony against HB3 and for HB3. It is an unfair burden on those individuals who have been fortunate to amass some wealth or to develop a family business, and they're unable to pass it on when they pass away because of the estate tax. $338,000 is not a lot of money when you consider someone who pays off their home or develops modest securities in a retirement account. If the phase-in was, or the phase-out actually, was put in place as it currently stands, the deferral was to 2013. If the phase-out proposal of 2 or 3 years goes into effect and the ceiling is increased to, say, $1 million or whatever the legislature defines, then this true impact won't be felt for 6 or 7 years, which would give municipalities an opportunity to find ways to operate more efficiently in some respects. And I believe that would be appropriate if we're going to go that route. I heard testimony when I was in Columbus where one township testified that they received about $750,000 towards their general fund, which, as I understand it, according to state law, these funds cannot be used for general fund purposes. A lot of our municipalities in this county currently do that. It's only to be used for it's not even to be budgeted. I believe Mr. Fitzgerald may be able to shed some light on that from his previous experience. The question was asked, how many residents contribute to that $750,000, 20% of your budget? 5 people. So 5 people who lived in that township, who passed away, contribute to 20% of that township's budget. And the question posed, do you think that's fair that those 5 people should pay for 20% of that township's operating expense? And the ultimate response from an opponent to HB3 was no, it's not fair, but it's what we've got. This proposal, the phase out, which has been defeated, raising the limit, provides a runway, an opportunity for townships and municipalities to find other ways internally and with the expectation that the economy will turn and the revenue streams and other revenue streams will become available to them. So I supported the previous amendment and support this amendment. And that's just to give you a little perspective on what the testimony was in Columbus.
All right, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll on the second amendment? Are we okay, Mr. Morales?
Madam President,
Yeah.
I noted that the resolution itself, the caption of the resolution intends that it become immediately effective, but in the provisions under the now therefore be it resolved clause, there is no section stating that the resolution will become immediately effective.
You mean the actual printed
Correct.
resolution,
Correct.
which is in our stack here somewhere? Okay. It needs to be amended, the printed resolution needs, well, can we vote on this second amendment first?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, let's get this out of the way first, okay. I call the roll on our second amendment.
Okay, approving the Second Amendment, Mr. Miller,
No.
Mr. Brady,
No.
Mr. Germana, Mr. Gallagher,
Yes.
Mr. Schron,
Yes.
Ms. Conwell,
No.
Mr. Jones,
No.
Ms. Conley,
No.
Mr. Rogers,
No.
Ms. Simon,
No.
Mr. Greenspan.
Yes.
The motion is defeated.
All right, motion is, the second amendment is defeated, and now we would be back to voting on the amended motion 002. However, we have to correct the printed ordinance, which we can find here. All right, is there a motion to correct?
Madam President,
Yes.
I would make a motion that we suspend the rules to allow for a non-written amendment, and that we amend this motion to add a clause stating that that provided that it receives the affirmative votes of 8 or more members of this council, that it shall become immediately effective. The reason being that it is urgently needed to make the feelings of the council known to the legislature.
Now, do we need two motions, one to suspend the rules to amend and then one to amend? Or just one motion to suspend and amend?
Madam President,
Yes.
Let's do them as separate motions.
Okay, so we need first a motion to suspend the rules in order to consider the the verbal amendment. Okay. Okay, so moved by Mr. Rogers and seconded by Ms. Simon. This is a motion to suspend the rules in order to allow for an amendment of the ordinance number 0002. It was actually, you left, or it was inadvertently left out.
Correct.
A section regarding the immediate passage.
Correct.
that
Mr.
correct?
Miller made the motion originally, and Mr. Rogers seconded the
Right,
motion.
okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just a point, I'm making a point to self right now, and just a note to council colleagues, when we're reviewing the rules, can we look at the passage that will insist that we have every amendment in writing, even if it's non-substantive and procedural, so we can dispense with having to suspend the rule every time we find a typo?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move we hold this to the next meeting to have clarity by the law director as to form.
Is that a motion to table, which is not debatable?
Second.
Okay. So this, is on hold till the next meeting?
Table.
To table,
Okay, move the table.
made
She's,
by
get- we-
I see.
Mr. Germana.
wait, what are we voting on now?
Table.
We have a motion on the floor.
We have a motion
Already?
by Dale Miller to
Suspend
suspend.
the rules.
So
Correct.
suspend the rules. So we need to call the roll on the motion to suspend the rules.
Okay.
The motion on the table, I believe, takes precedent over all motions.
Was it a motion?
Motion,
There was a motion to table.
yes.
Well,
Well, what's a motion to hold? I thought we can have a motion to table. One and the same?
Return to committee.
Motion to table.
Madam Chair, I wanted to hold this until the next meeting because we would have corrections by the law director as to form.
Sir, if this were to be held to the next meeting, it won't require a correction because it will be up for third reading, right?
That's not correct.
No?
So what if we not got the motion to suspend and just and leave it for the next reading?
Madam
Yes.
President,
Yes.
even if we were to hold it till the third reading, where it could be passed without suspending the rules requiring 3 separate readings. A resolution or an ordinance normally does not become effective immediately upon passage. It doesn't become effective for, I think it's 40 days. And so the question is still an active question, not a moot point, as to whether we would want the resolution to become immediately effective.
If the motion to table carries and we can put it on the agenda for the next meeting, then it would be corrected by the next meeting as to the interlineation of the points. Is that acceptable? And then we would have additional time to debate it and among ourselves and decide. Is that acceptable to the body? Are we procedurally okay, Mr. Morales?
Yes.
All right, do we need a vote on the motion? We know there's no vote on the motion to table. No. All right, so it is now, the motion is tabled, and we'll put it back on the agenda for the next regularly scheduled meeting, which will be the 22nd.
Who made the motion and the second to table? Mr. Germana?
Mr. Germana, and seconded by Mr. Schron.
Thank you.
All right, move on to item,
We
yeah.
got to vote.
What?
We need to vote.
Okay,
I do not think we should simply not act on legislation without I'm not opposed to tabling it till the next meeting, but I think that we should vote to do so. I don't think we can just not act on something that's properly before the body.
all right, so we're going to have a vote on the motion to table? Okay,
Okay.
call the roll.
Mr. Miller? Yes. Mr. Brady? No. Mr. Germana? Yes. Mr. Gallagher? Yes. Mr. Schron? Yes. Mrs. Conwell?
Yes.
Mr. Jones? Yes. Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers? Yes. Ms. Simon?
No.
Mr. Greenspan?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, so we have now tabled this motion, and we'll bring it to the next meeting, next
And-
regularly scheduled meeting.
And Madam President?
Yes.
I would point out that presuming we're going with immediately effective, that at the next meeting when it would be up for third reading, a written amendment should be brought forward with the exact language which the law department will provide for us. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Now, item 14, committee reports and consideration of ordinance of council for a second reading. This matter has been in the Rules Committee, is that correct? And then it will stay in the Rules Committee unless there's any other action for this evening. Is that correct, Mr. Greenspan?
No, Madam President, no, this item is voted out of committee
Okay.
for second reading before council. As I expressed earlier, the process now is that this item is before council. For any amendments, please submit them in writing. Let me provide a little background here on what's going on with this proposal. And traditionally, we would hear the third reading at the next regularly scheduled meeting of council. However, with this item, I would recommend, and I've spoken with Council President Connolly about this, that this item be voted on in a special meeting on April 5th. And I'll explain why. I have been in direct communication with the Ohio Ethics Commission on this ethics ordinance. And the Ohio Ethics Commission is meeting on March 24th, 2 days after our next regularly scheduled meeting. They have agreed to provide guidance in advance of that meeting and also to address this item in their meeting and on their agenda on the 24th. They have asked us not to vote on this on the 22nd until the OEC has reviewed it and provided guidance on the 24th. So that's why I'd recommend that we address this item for third reading, not on our next regularly scheduled meeting, but on April 5th.
Mr. Miller?
Madam President, I would suggest that you should request the clerk to read the item by title so that we have an official second reading.
All right.
All right. Ordinance number 2011-0008, an ordinance adopting a permanent code of ethics. I'll let the record show that no action is being taken on this item and that it will be put on the April 5th, 2011 agenda for a third reading.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Schrein.
Madam President, I would ask that you actually refer it back to committee with the consideration that these written evaluations and rules of committee of draft ordinance be at least considered for purposes of whether or not they have merit for additions, deletions, or changes in regards to it that were presented to us this evening.
They can be considered in committee.
Yeah, I have no issues taking this. We meet next week anyhow, so we'd be glad to address these then. Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so this will be on the agenda for April 5th. All right, 0012.
Madam President, if an item is to be referred back to committee, there should be a motion made to that effect and approved.
Madam Chair.
No.
We don't need a motion to refer something back to committee.
No, she can just.
Madam Chair, why are we referring this back to committee?
I didn't think it was going to go back to committee. It was just going to be back on for third reading. But Mr. Schrein suggests that we consider the additional. But we can do that in the additional hearings. We have a hearing. We have a meeting for next week anyway.
Chair, that's correct. We have a meeting on April 5th, and I can say that the committee acted diligently to review the comments of the transition team's comments throughout our committee process. So the committee has taken this into consideration. So perhaps the non-committee members can take a look at this and convene with us on April 5th so we can proceed with this process moving forward on the timeline this committee set by our chair.
Madam President?
Yes, Mr. Miller.
Madam President, we basically have two options. Normally when an item is read the second time, that means it's been heard by committee and reported by the committee. And normally the next step would be that it would go to the council's third reading. And we could review the suggestions that were made and the concerns and critiques and we could simply bring forward any changes that are needed in the form of an amendment that would be adopted by the full council when it's next heard on April 5th. The other option is that we could refer it back to committee and the committee could consider and adopt additional changes if it wishes and report it back to the council, which could be done before April 5th. If if we do that, I think we should adopt a motion to refer it back to committee, because normally when it comes back for second reading, the next step is that it goes to the floor for third reading.
Mr. Brady?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to agree with my colleague, Councilwoman Simon. This committee has spent more hours discussing the hard work of Mr. Greenspan and Mr. Miller and the rest of the committee than any other committee in the council, and the recommendations of the transition committee. Not trying to belittle any of that, but they have also been at the table during these discussions throughout. This has gone on for weeks and weeks, and it seems to me that we should move forward, not go back to committee again, not re-discuss this all over again. There's been plenty of opportunity to discuss this by everyone involved, and I would like to see us take this up on April the 5th and be done with it.
Madam President.
Mr. Greenspan?
I would agree with Councilmember Simon and Brady on this, to the extent that they are correct that we've had extensive conversations on these specific items. Inspector General Byrd, Human Resource Director Hara, and I were on the phone yesterday going over these items. I will be glad to revisit them in committee, not as the motion being sent back to committee, but just for discussion within committee. And if any recommendations come out of that, we will be glad to move them forward as possible amendments. But I don't want to belabor the point, and I believe that the review by the Ohio Ethics Commission and pending that report is something that I believe should guide us at that point. If it is required or requested by them that it go back to committee, then I would consider it. But I would consider these as a discussion point within our committee, but recommend that we not send the whole ordinance back to committee.
Yes, Mr. Miller?
I think the suggestion by the chairman of the committee, Mr. Greenspan, that we not formally refer it back to committee, but that the committee informally review the legislation and see if there's some recommendations to be brought forward for April 5th, kind of gives us the best of both worlds and is well taken.
All right, since there's no motion to refer to committee, then the chair will just place it on the agenda for April 5th. All right. Okay, can we go on to 0012? Madam Clerk, will you read it, please?
Ordinance number 2011-0012, an ordinance amending the public records policy for Cuyahoga County and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Is there a second?
Madam
this is
President.
pending referral to the committee.
Madam President?
Second reading.
This is on second reading. Second reading, so we don't need to do anything other than it will continue in the committee based on the second reading. And we've been handed the additional copy. Is that correct?
Madam President?
Miller.
I would just like to make a few comments.
All right.
We are required by state law to have a public records policy, and we adopted interim legislation on January 3rd, which was signed by the county executive on January 10th, and this legislation would be a successor to that. And today in committee, we adopted this version and added an amendment in committee that made the county archivist and the county director of law to be ex officio members of the County Records Commission. And this legislation generally provides for a thoroughgoing and consistent application of the state law on public records for our county. It generally does not strengthen state law, but just simply provides for its consistent application. And I would simply encourage my colleagues to take a look at this and see if you have any concerns or amendments, and would hope that this might be voted on for final passage on the 22nd. I would also add that the law director is working with us around the question of exactly what boards, commissions, advisory councils, and other such things that the council's legislative authority extends to. As this ordinance currently reads, there's a provision that it applies it to these bodies, provided that the council's legislative authority extends to them. But we're hoping that we'll be able to come in with a minor amendment on the 22nd based on the law director's advice that would nail this down a little bit more accurately. But other than that one area of uncertainty, I think we're in pretty good shape.
All right, no action taken will be on the agenda for the 22nd. All right, consideration of resolutions for first reading under adoption of suspension of the rules. Item 15.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Germana.
Madam Chair, I move that Rule 13A requiring reference to committee and Rule 9D requiring that ordinances and resolutions be read at 3 different regular council meetings be suspended, and that Resolution 211-0086 and 211-0087 be considered for final passage at tonight's meeting.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Germana, seconded by Mr. Miller. Call the roll on the motion to suspend the rules.
Suspending the rules, Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Germana,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher, Mr. Schron, Ms. Conwell, Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Conley, Mr. Rogers, Ms. Simon,
Yes.
Mr. Greenspan.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, Madam Clerk, if you read 0086.
Resolution number 2011-0086, a resolution approving plans for reconstruction of Ridge Road from Interstate 480 to Memphis Road in the city of Brooklyn, ordering that surveys, plans, profiles, cross-sections, right-of-way plans, and plat for the project be filed in the office of the Clerk of Council, setting the date and time of a public hearing, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Okay, is there any discussion? Mr. Germana.
I move for adoption.
Second.
All right, is there any discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, you call the roll.
Approving the resolution, Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Brady,
Yes.
Mr. Germana,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher, Mr. Schron,
Yes.
Ms. Conwell, Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Conley,
Yes.
Mr. Rogers,
Yes.
Ms. Simon,
Yes.
Mr. Greenspan.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
If the motion is carried, the clerk has to set a date for the public hearing.
Yes, Madam President, the public hearing will be scheduled on April 12, 2011 at 6:30 p.m. Here in the council chambers.
Is that a regular council meeting, or is that,
That's a regular meeting.
okay. All right, 0087.
Resolution number 2011-0087, a resolution amending the 2011 annual appropriation measure by providing additional fiscal appropriations from the general fund and other funding sources for appropriation transfers between budget accounts and for cash transfers between budgetary funds in order to meet the budgetary needs of various county departments, offices, and agencies, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Is there a motion?
Move to adopt. Second.
Moved by Mr. Schron, seconded by Mr. Gallagher. Is there any discussion? Mr. Miller.
Madam President, is there somebody from from finance that could respond to a question or two.
Mr. Rubino is here.
Okay.
President, members of council, I'm Matt Rubino with the Office of Budget Management.
Madam President, to Mr. Rubino, there is an item in which something like $720,000 is transferred within accounts within the Board of Elections from charter election to other elections. Could you explain that item?
Yes, Councilman. They have appropriation in the wrong budget account, so we're moving that to the correct account. They should not have many more expenses left over from the charter-related election. So it was in the wrong budget account when the budget was adopted.
Madam President, to Mr. Rubino, does this transfer reflect that the charter election did not cost as much as was expected, and that there's money left over, or was this just a clerical error?
It's more or less a clerical error, Councilman Miller. The final cost on the charter election came in, what we had reported them to be around third quarter of last year, end of third quarter of last year, which I believe was, I think, 3.6 to 3.7 million, remember correctly.
Okay. Okay.
All right, any other questions? All right, call the roll.
Approving the resolution, Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Brady, Mr. Germana,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher, Mr. Schron, Ms. Conwell, Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Yes.
Rogers, Ms. Simon,
Yes.
Mr. Greenspan.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, moving on to item 16. We have a number of items that will be referred to committee. Madam Clerk, you're going to be doing a lot of reading. You want to start?
Okay. Madam President,
Yeah.
would you like me to go through 0088 all the way through to 0095 with your recommendation of referral to?
Okay, is it necessary we have all of these read? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Take a deep breath.
It's okay. Resolution number 2011-0088, a resolution accepting the rehabilitation of county parking lots and driveways located at the York Road Maintenance Yard in the city of North Royalton and the Fitch Road Maintenance Yard in Olmsted Township as complete and in accordance with plans and specifications, requesting authority for the county treasurer to release the escrow account in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, section 153.63.
All right, refer that to Public Works.
Resolution number 2011-0089, a resolution authorizing the county executive to make an application for allocation from county motor vehicle $5 license tax funds in the amount of $2,009,091.22 for improvement of Stump Road from Snow Road to Pearl Road in the cities of Parma and Parma Heights.
Refer to Public Works.
Resolution number 2011-0090, a resolution approving specifications and estimate of cost in the amount not to exceed $1,800,000 for rehabilitation of Old Mill Road Bridge number 162 over the Chagrin River in the village of Gates Mills, authorizing the Department of Purchasing to advertise for bids on requisition number 19651.
Refer to Public Works.
Resolution number 2011-0091, a resolution authorizing the county executive to grant sewer builders licenses for the year 2011, authorizing the Director of Public Works or her designee to execute said licenses.
Refer to Public Works.
Resolution number 2011-0092, a resolution authorizing the county executive to prepare and enter into an amendment, subsidiary number 1 to contract number CE 1000111 with Suburban Maintenance and Construction Incorporated for replacement of Main Street Bridge number 36 over Baldwin Creek in the cities of Middleburg Heights and Strongsville for additional funds in the amount of $82,720.99.
Refer to Public Works.
Resolution number 2011-0093, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into an amendment, subsidiary number 1, to contract number CE 10568 with Perk Company Incorporated for scour repair of Old Royalton Road Bridge number 108 over Chippewa Creek in the city of Brecksville for a decrease in the amount of $17,081.83.
Refer to Public Works.
Resolution number 2011-0094, a resolution approving an award on requisition number 18812 to Fabrizi Trucking and Paving Company Incorporated in the amount of $6,696,970.75 for improvement of Stump Road from Snow Road to Pearl Road in the cities of Parma and Parma Heights, authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract consistent with said award.
Public Works.
Resolution number 2011-0095, a resolution approving an award on requisition number 18997 to Longo Sewer Construction Incorporated in the amount of $378,993 for replacement of storm and sanitary sewers in Grannis Road and Thraves Road, located in the city of Garfield Heights, County Sewer District number 9, authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract consistent with said award.
Refer to Public Works.
Resolution number 2011-0096, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into an amendment, change order number 1, to contract number CE 0900-784 with ESI Incorporated for electrical services for the Courthouse Tower Interiors project in connection with the Cuyahoga County Juvenile Justice Center project to increase the unforeseen conditions cash allowance from $570,439 to $699,239, and for additional funds in the amount of $128,800.
This matter will be referred to Justice Affairs.
Resolution number 2011-0097, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into an amendment, change order number 2, to contract number CE 0900-784 with ESI Incorporated for electrical services for the Courthouse Tower Interiors project in connection with the Cuyahoga County Juvenile Justice Center project to increase the unforeseen conditions cash allowance from $699,239 to $837,239, and for additional funds in the amount of $138,000.
I'll refer this matter to Justice Affairs.
Resolution number 2011-0098, a resolution approving an award on requisition number 19354 to Court Smart Digital Systems Incorporated in the amount of $625,277 for digital audio recording equipment for juvenile court in connection with the Cuyahoga County Juvenile Justice Center project, authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract consistent with said award.
Justice Affairs.
Resolution number 2011-0099, a resolution approving a rental rehabilitation loan in the amount not to exceed $150,000 to Cleveland Housing Network for the Independence Place project located at 4019 Prospect Avenue, Cleveland, authorizing the county executive and/or director of development to execute all documents required in connection with said loan.
This matter will be referred to the Economic Development Committee.
Resolution number 2011-0100, a resolution approving an economic development loan in the amount not to exceed $100,800 to DBS Property Management for renovation of property located at 5061 West 161st Street, Brook Park, authorizing the county executive and/or director of development to execute all documents required in connection with said loan.
This matter will go to the Economic Development Committee.
Resolution number 2011-0101, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of self-supporting housing revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $6,500,000 for Famicos Doan Classroom, LLC, for the purpose of rehabilitating, improving, and equipping a senior housing facility for low and moderate income seniors, authorizing the execution and delivery of a loan agreement, bond purchase agreement, trust indenture, and tax regulatory agreement, authorizing and approving the use and distribution of a disclosure document, approving related matters, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Okay, this matter will go to the Economic Development Committee.
Madam Chair, I might add that the required public hearing for this item will be held on March 21st, 2011 at 3 p.m. during the Economic Development and Planning Committee meeting.
Thank you.
Resolution number 2011-0102, a resolution authorizing juvenile court through the county executive to enter into an agreement with Cuyahoga County Department of Justice Affairs Office of Mediation in the amount not to exceed $400,000 for the juvenile court custody mediation project for the period February 1, 2011 through January 31, 2012.
Mr. Mayor, we'll go to Justice Affairs.
Resolution number 2011-0103, a resolution authorizing the county executive to prepare and enter into an amendment to contract number CE 10249 with Oriana House Incorporated for operation of a neighborhood reentry resource center for the period February 1, 2010 through January 31, 2011, to exercise an option to extend the time period to January 31, 2012, to change the scope of services and the terms effective February 1, 2011, and for additional funds in the amount of $287,000.
This matter will go to Health and Human Services, and I just want to go for the record, I am on an advisory committee for the Reentry Center, so I will not be voting on this matter.
Resolution number 2011-0104, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into Title 4D cooperative agreement contracts with various providers for child support services for the period January 1, 2011 through December 31, 2011. One with the Court of Common Pleas, Division of Domestic Relations, in the amount of $2,082,307.49. Two with the Court of Common Pleas, Division of Juvenile Court, in the amount of $2,218,669.89. And three with the Office of the Prosecuting Attorney of Cuyahoga County in the amount of $2,257,588.70.
Okay, this matter will go to Justice Affairs.
Resolution number 2011-0105, a resolution authorizing the county executive to prepare and enter into an amendment to contract number CE 0800-734 with Educational Service Center of Cuyahoga County for the Help Me Grow component of the Invest in Children program for the period July 1, 2008 through June 30, 2011, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $316,416.
This matter will go to Health and Human Services. Okay, item number 17, consideration of an ordinance for first reading and adoption under suspension of the rules.
Yes. Oh, the suspending the rules, sorry.
Madam Chair?
Ms. Simon.
At this point, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings. I move that Rule 13A requiring reference to committee and Rule 9D requiring that ordinances and resolutions be read at 3 different regular council meetings be suspended, and that this ordinance number 2011-0018 be considered for final passage tonight.
Second.
All right, moved by Ms. Simon, seconded by Mr. Miller to suspend the rules. Madam Clerk, we call the roll.
Suspending the rules, Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Schron?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell? Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Ms. Simon? Mr. Greenspan?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, we suspended the rules. Madam Clerk, will you read the ordinance, please?
Ordinance number 2011-0018, an ordinance amending Section 7 grants and loans of ordinance number ordinance number 2011-0006, dated January 11, 2011, which amended ordinance number 2011-002, dated January 3, 2011, providing certain procedures for the purchase of goods, supplies, and interest in real estate and other contracts necessary for the continuation of the usual and daily operations of Cuyahoga County government, to permit the county executive and/or the director of the Department of Development to make loans not to exceed $200,000 for the purpose of implementing the Federal Neighborhood Stabilization Program 2, and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Schron, seconded by Ms. Simon. Is there any discussion?
No, I have a question, but I'll wait if there's a presentation.
Madam President, if there are questions, we have Nate Kelly here, who I would ask to speak to this, if I may, Madam President.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President and President. The reason why Vice President Simon and the Department of Development and the County Executive have been working on this is because you may be familiar already with the Neighborhood Stabilization Program. This is the second round where the county is working with the land bank and member cities to acquire, rehabilitate, and then redeploy non-productive properties, make them productive again. At our last council meeting, council passed a resolution that stressed to the state how important it is that we're able to retain some of the funds that we'd received for stimulus but hadn't yet spent because we plan to deploy them. Our county has done a pretty lousy job of deploying these dollars at an adequate speed and get them into the neighborhoods. So we've made some significant changes to the program in order to increase the velocity of these funds, get them deployed into the neighborhoods where they belong, and improve some of the properties that we can most easily address. This change to the current ordinance will permit us to move quickly when we have loans that are proposed by the cities and developers. They all have to be approved by the cities, by the way, before they're brought to the county, to be able to turn them around and get the loans happening and the properties rehabbed. In addition to those timelines and spending these funds, which we have to have spent before 2013, we also have to deal with the seasonal ebbs and flows of the real estate market. We want to get these properties bought, rehabbed, and sold, and the best time to do that is in the spring, summer, and fall. We currently have about half a dozen properties that are in their queue waiting for the county to act that are brought before, that will be brought to us by the cities. And of course, every time a property is brought to the Department of Development, we'll make sure the council is aware of it with the Border Control process and any other additional communication that council would like.
All right, thank you. So any discussion on this? Mr. Greenspan?
I have one question. We're amending an ordinance. This is a one-time amendment, correct, for this specific project for $200,000? We're not amending the ordinance and reducing the amount from 250 to 200.
The amendment is for the NSP program to allow us to do loans for the NSP program for $200,000. One thing to acknowledge is that there is the Border Control ordinance that is before council and that Councilman Miller has been taking a lead on that will supersede today's amendment if passed. So that's one thing to consider as you're moving forward with your Border Control process, that if you support this today, we'd like to have that incorporated into the permanent ordinance that would be before council and county meetings.
I'm sorry. I understand what you said, but is this a one-time? This is a one-time exemption amendment to the ordinance for this specific purpose. Is that? I guess Ms. Hurley.
I don't understand the question.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yep.
to Mr. Greenspan, do you mind, Mr. Kelly? This is actually a carved-out exception to the ordinance we passed in January, but it's specific to NSP funds too. So it will just be an ongoing allowance for these funds to be dispensed with to allow the projects to go forward until such time, perhaps, that we address it in the other committee. But yeah, it's a carved-out exception, but it's ongoing because the funds are there, only up to $200,000 though.
So this
Every project in this one program.
every project for NSP2, then the limit's been reduced to 200,000.
For NSP2 funds.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Approving the ordinance, Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Germana.
Yes.
Gallagher. Mr. Schron. Conwell.
Yes.
Ms. Conley. Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
Ms. Simon.
Yes.
And Mr. Greenspan.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, item 18, consideration of an ordinance for first reading and referral to committee.
Ordinance number 2011-0019, an ordinance authorizing the creation of an agency of Inspector General that shall be an independent agency dedicated to promoting honesty and integrity among the officers and employees of the county by detecting, investigating, and deterring fraud, corruption, waste, mismanagement, abuse, misfeasance, malfeasance, and nonfeasance in county government.
All right, this matter will be referred to the Rules Committee.
Madam
Yes,
President,
Mr. Greenspan.
I just want to comment on this real quick and let me explain why this is being set up as an agency versus a department. The way our charter is written, departments and offices, which we don't want the Inspector General to be in office either, are subject and under the supervision of the county executive. An agency, board, commissions are not. So this is one step in making the Inspector General more independent. We are working with the Association of Inspectors General out of New York, and they've been very, very cooperative. I don't see Ms. Bird here. Very cooperative with us in this process. The expectation, as I explained to my committee today, was that we will work as diligently as we can with possibly the expectation of having this ordinance, which is the investigative component of the ethics ordinance as it relates to civil and criminal violations, come out of committee, hopefully for final passage on April 5th at the same time that the ethics ordinance comes out. So that's the expectation, the reason why it's an agency versus a department or an office.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion on that? All right, having moved through our agenda, the chair would like to make some announcements regarding assignments or appointments for members of council. At this time, the chair would like to appoint Mr. Dale Miller, chairman of the Finance Committee, to the Cuyahoga County Investment Advisory Committee, and he has indicated his willingness to serve. I would suggest in all of these appointments that we need to set up a protocol for an alternate member. So in case you are unavailable or any of the other persons are unavailable, that we could automatically have an alternate so that they can attend in case you're unavailable. The chair would like to appoint Mr. Julian Rogers, chairman of the Environment and Sustainability Committee, to the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District Board of Trustees. And Mr. Rogers has graciously accepted that assignment. The chair would also like to appoint Mr. Dan Brady, chairman of the Health and Human Services Committee, to the Cuyahoga County Land Reutilization Corporation Board, which is the Land Bank Board. Mr. Brady has a long history with that program and has a particular interest and is very willing to serve. And finally, we have an appointment to the NOACA Board, the Northern Ohio Coordinating, I don't think I said it right, but I know it's NOACA.
Northeast Ohio.
Area Coordinating Committee.
Agency.
And Mr. Germana has graciously accepted this assignment. He's chairman of the Intergovernmental Committee, and his long experience in the city of Parma, I think, makes him very able to carry out that task. And once again, if all of you would, get with us and designate an alternate so that if you weren't available, we can have an alternate. Are there any miscellaneous committee reports?
Madam Chair, just a reminder, tomorrow is the Public Works Committee. At 2, we will review the draft for the ordinance. And again, that's it tomorrow at 2.
Okay.
Of course, reviewing the contracts that we've been presented, referred to committee.
Okay. Any miscellaneous business?
Madam Chair? Yes. I just wanted to indicate as a council committee report that we did tour a lot of council members last Friday, the Juvenile Justice Center, and I'm going to have a meeting this Friday at 11:30 of Justice Affairs to address the legislation that we looked at tonight and some comments, some feedback from the tour last Friday.
Yes, Ms. Conwell.
Madam Chair, Human Resource will change their time tomorrow, not their date, so the time is at 11:30.
And Mr. Miller?
Madam Chair, the Finance Committee is going to meet at its usual time next Monday, the 14th at 2 o'clock, and we're going to hear a presentation regarding the Investment Advisory Committee and do more work regarding the adjustments that we have to do regarding the budget.
Okay. Mr. Griesbaum?
I have a question to Chairman Gallagher. Do we have a public safety meeting at 2 o'clock on Monday?
We do not.
All right. All right. Is there any public comment unrelated to the agenda? All right. Is there we should indicate that we will have a special meeting, we'll have a work session on March the 15th. We have a regular scheduled meeting for March 22nd, and with a work session at 4 and a regular meeting at 6. Is there any other business to come before the council? And is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
All right, thank you. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, yeah.
Hey, Chuck. So we picked up a whole bunch of things on tonight,
My poor dog.
including a public hearing and including Jeff